sing a lot of those old country music songs. I like to rock and roll, get everybody singing along, and I'll do your request if you feed that old tip jar.
This is a film about Shane Douglas, singer-songwriter and stellar guitar player. It's a film about hopes, aspirations and challenging our midlife comfort zones. Shane's a country boy from West Virginia, and for the last 30 years he's earned his living playing professionally in and around the Nashville music scene.
Some things can only happen in Nashville. That's why I moved there 30 years ago. The day before I turned 18, I left Hedgesville, West Virginia for Nashville, Tennessee. I was following the dream of music, and I still am. Nashville is where it happens. Songs are born, stars are made, dreams come true.
Buys me a shot.
It's now essentially become the day job, and Shane felt he'd lost some of the drive and passion he once had for playing the music he clearly loves. He's not released an album of original material since 2015. I thought I'd take Shane out of his comfort zone on a road trip back to West Virginia via the Bristol Rhythm and Roots Festival, just to see if he could rediscover some of the music and influences that made him want to play guitar in the first place. It really was a fun week on the road, and this is a story.
Success is measured in many ways. I've spent 30 years making a living with music, doing what I love and getting paid for it. That's success, right? Yes, it is. But not as I measured it as an 18-year-old. The 18-year-old in me is a little disappointed, but the 48-year-old in me is so grateful. Somewhere in between that is the unrequited love of music and Nashville.
Shane and I first met in 2015 at one of his gigs. We stayed friends and met up again in 2020 on another of my trips to Nashville.
I met Ian Marshall at one of the thousands of gigs I've played. Just another gig. But Nashville can make just another mundane gig seem like a magical one. He was visiting from the UK and caught my set, and we struck up a friendship, and we've continued it for several years now. We've only met in person 3 times, but the bond was set.
Stay in there. Let's play the blues tonight. Go ahead.
And through Ian, I've met Steve and George. They have a real genuine interest in American roots music and culture. And they've invited me on a road trip from Nashville, Tennessee, via Bristol, Tennessee, to Hedgesville, West Virginia, to explore Appalachian music and learn where their Scottish ancestors came to. And for me, I hope to learn where the music I love came from. As a kid, music was everything. Every sound was a mystery, every song was new. Every chord I learned opened doors to more chords, and every time I played, it only made me want to play more. It was endlessly fascinating.
But it's too many dirty dishes in the sink, but just us two.
Shane, hey, how you doing, my man?
Hey, good night. I'll take a hug.
Good
How
to
are
see you.
you?
Let the musical journey begin.
I'm ready to do it. Let's do it.
Great stuff.
I'm excited. I've been waiting. It seems like it's been waiting forever.
I know.
Yeah, you got me wondering, pretty baby, who's been out there making dirty dishes with you? You know, I go to work in the morning, I come straight home at night, and when I leave, that sink is empty. I come home, you got a pile up high out of sight. Too many dirty dishes in the sink, just us two.
First stop on the road trip, the town of Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia. Not only is it unique as the state line runs right through the centre of town, but Bristol is also recognised as the birthplace of country music. The 1927 Bristol sessions were held here, unleashing the sound of recorded country music for the very first time. We caught up here with Bristol resident and old musician friend of Shane's, bass player David Wampler.
Yeah, I'm David Wampler, Bristol, Tennessee, Eastern Tennessee, and very nice to be here with you.
Likewise. So how exactly do you know Shane?
I moved to a small town called Lebanon, Tennessee, which is roughly 30 miles above Nashville, with a young lady I'd met. And I happened to play music. Before, I didn't go there for music, but I did intend to play while I was there.
How many years ago was this, Dave?
17 years ago.
17 years ago.
And shortly thereafter, of course, I was going out and to, see other bands and try to meet musicians there. And I came across this gentleman, Shane Douglas, playing one night, and I thought to myself, phew, this guy can really play guitar. And to this day, he has no idea how good he is. But I think that's part of his beauty and charm.
So then, when you met Shane in Nashville, did you actually stay and pursue your musical career, your own musical career?
I played with several different bands at the same time. And when I lived there, and of course, Shane had his own band, and the gentleman he plays with, Lenny, they've been together for many years. And of course, I could not, since Lenny plays bass and so did I, they didn't need another bass player. So that kept me from ever pursuing. So I would have done that had I had the chance. But Lenny, excellent player and incredible singer. So
right, Bristol is famous for the Bristol Sessions in
right.
1927. Do you essentially play country music or blues music?
I do. Blues is probably my favorite, and then classic rock would be my second. Also like soul music, the '60s, Motown stuff. Okay. But the country, sort of from the '60s and '70s, Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Hank Williams Jr., George Strait. Those are the kind of country-wise that are really my favorite. Well, he knows it all. I never anybody knows how many songs as this guy. I mean, whew.
Satisfied. She's my baby, don't you see? Well, I can't call her sugar. Sugar never was so sweet.
I thought 4 days at the annual Bristol Rhythm and Roots Festival, which is held in the streets of the town, would act as a catalyst for Shane to reconnect with his own musical roots in country music, the blues and rock and roll.
Well, here we are at the Bristol Rhythm and Roots Festival in Tennessee, Virginia. Bristol is famous for the Bristol Sessions in 1927, which were the first recognised recordings of country music. Here we are, sat in front of a wonderful mural in downtown Bristol, depicting some of the characters involved in it. So hopefully we're here to try to discover some of the influences and roots of the music that we all love.
Right.
I understand one of your Facebook friends or people that you know, their grandparents are in this.
Yeah, Randy Stoneman and Van Stoneman are the grandchildren of Pop Stoneman up there.
Okay.
And yeah, the Stoneman started it all right here. Pops knew a lot of people in this area.
And they were part of the original Bristol recording sessions in 1927.
Yeah.
And they're sat there beside Jimmy Rogers.
Jimmy Rogers, the Carter family, the Stoneman. That's Ralph Peer on the end, whose idea was to come to Bristol and do the sessions.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the one that put the ad in the paper that got everybody to come.
The producer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty neat, huh?
It's very neat.
Whilst at the festival, we interviewed Bill Smith, who has an encyclopedic knowledge of Appalachian music and culture. Bill is one of the volunteer guides at the Museum of Country Music. He's also a musician in his own right, plus his Scottish ancestors settled in the Appalachians over 200 years ago.
The music that was recorded in 1927, which is the basis of the Birthplace of Country Music Museum, this was established by Congress as the birthplace of country music. Well, the music was recorded in a hat warehouse that's no longer here, about 300 yards away, down on State Street, which divides Tennessee and Virginia. And the music was basically, the musicians were brought to this area by a fellow by the name of Ralph Peer, who was a scout for the Victor Talking Machine Company. And he'd already been south and heard this very different music than was being recorded and played in New York, which is where Victor was based. And he began to make contacts. One of the main contacts was with Ernest Pop Stoneman, who had A, a lot of kids, and B, a lot of talent, and C, knew an awful lot of other musicians. Peer was a very smart man. He started advertising. And Bristol was a trade center, so it was fairly easy to distribute the idea that he would be coming to Bristol to make recordings. There were already recordings having been made, but this was the Victor Talking Machine Company. So he comes to Bristol, and musicians from all over the region, primarily the mountains, come to Bristol. The Big Bang would be the distribution of this music that would make several of them famous. One group was the Stoneman family, who went on to long careers, and in fact, Ronnie Stoneman was on Hee Haw and is still entertaining. The other is, of course, the Carter family, which then would branch out through AP, Sarah, and Maybelle, who would then record, Maybelle would record with the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and the great album, Will the Circle Be Unbroken, would be created. But the other was Jimmy Rogers. And Jimmy Rogers is from Mississippi. And he, along with the Carters and the Stonemans, would be the great beneficiaries of Ralph Peer's ability to both get this music recorded, taken to New York, where it was then pressed, and then distributed all over this country and eventually the world. You folks over in Scotland, you gave us the mountain music, but music is all of ours. It's an important part of all of our lives. It's what touches our hearts and souls. It's air on the wind that tells stories.
Well, I bet there's rich folks sitting in that fancy tiny car, probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. Lord, I knew I had it coming. Lord knows I can't be free. Those people keep on moving. That's what tortures me.
This trip was full of serendipitous moments, as later that evening we bumped into musician Oscar Harris. who just happened to be an old family friend of the Carters. Oscar very kindly invited us to his home the next day to discuss the music of the region in more detail, but also to give us a wonderful tour of the Carter family fold.
Hi, I'm Oscar Harris. We're in Poor Valley, Virginia, and I live here. And we're at the Mount Vernon Cemetery, looking at AP and Sarah and Jeanette and Joe's grave, the Carter family. I played with AP's grandson, Dale Jett, and a group called Hello Stranger, and we toured the United States and Canada and just had a blast keeping the Carter family music alive. So it was really good.
Thank you for having us here today and showing us around. This is the music I grew up on. It's got a very spiritual place for me, and I can't thank you enough. It's just incredible that you're taking us around and showing us this place. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. It's a great place. A lot of famous musicians come to visit here. We've had several people. I know that John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin came up and visited here because he was into old time music, which I didn't know that, but it was great to have him, and he was really a super nice fellow. This headstone right here is Joe Carter. Joe was AP and Sarah's son, and he helped his sister Jeanette Carter start the Carter Fold, which is down the road just a little bit. And Joe was a tremendous songwriter, and a good vocalist, a good guitar player. And he also done the, I guess you call it the comic part of the show at the Carter Fold. He was amazing at making animal sounds. So he would have the barnyard on stage with him, and the audience always just loved it. So that's Joe's gravestone. And here is Jeanette. She's the lady that actually started the Carter Fold with her brother Joe. If you can see on her headstone there, it's an angel with playing the auto harp, which is pretty cool. And she was a very sweet lady. And then over one more is Sarah Carter. That was AP's wife, and later they divorced, and she married a gentleman by the name of Coy Bays. This headstone here is Mr. AP Carter's. And it has Keep on the Sunny Side on it too. It used to have Anchored in Love on either this one or Sarah's.
It's on Sarah's. I saw it's on Sarah's.
Is it Anchored in Love?
Anchored in Love.
Okay. All right. So,
I guess they weren't anchored anymore since they divorced.
Right. They divorced, and you see the headstone over here of Nancy Carter. That's Joe's ex-wife too. So.
So she's, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but she's moved to California with Coy. Who makes that decision for her to come back here and be buried with her ex-husband at the time?
I guess the family.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I thought we played the Wildwood Flower because that's to me that's the Carter family's probably most popular song, and it's the first song I learned how to play. Really, I think everybody has to learn how to play that.
Everybody does.
Yeah. One more.
Music has been really good to me.
Yeah.
It's broke my heart a time or two now. I'll tell you, anything that good has to have a little bad side to it. You know how that goes.
That's very true.
Shane and I are standing in front of the Carter family fold here in Macy's Springs, Virginia. This is a music house. They have music every Saturday night, and there's lots of flat footing and clogging. And
Can you do that?
I used to. I don't know if I can now or not. But it's a great place. It started by Jeanette Carter and her brother Joe, and this seats, I'm going to say, roughly 800 people. So it's a pretty big venue, and so they've had
music every Saturday night.
Have music every Saturday night.
Is it like old time string band and bluegrass?
Most of it is
music?
Bluegrass and string band. You know, they have some country acts.
Does every band that comes have to play a Carter family song? They don't have to.
They
I'm
don't
sure
have
they do.
to, but I think it would be a good practice for them. I've seen some fantastic people in this building. I've seen Marty Stewart and his fabulous superlatives here. I had the honor of seeing Johnny Cash here about 4 times with June. And matter of fact, during the last performance of Johnny's career, after June died, he was not in good health, but he felt like he needed to come back to the Carter fold and do one more show in honor of June. And he was in a wheelchair, and they trained Dale Jett and myself how to handle him and get him up on stage and set him in a chair. And you would think he's not going to be able to do this, but as soon as they said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Cash,"
he turned it on.
He turned it right on, just like he was forever. And he dedicated it to June and told her that he loved her and missed her so much he didn't know if he could go on or not. And he didn't go on much longer after that.
So this was the last place he played.
This is the last place he played.
This is a good time to mention. Today is September 12th, 2022. It's the 19th anniversary of Johnny Cash's death.
You're right.
Yeah.
I've forgotten about
And
that.
here we are.
Yeah.
That's serendipity.
Yeah. I also had the pleasure of seeing Johnny and June came one time to do a show, and they brought some surprise guests. And it was Waylon Jennings and Jesse Coulter.
Wow.
So I got front row seats somehow. I don't know, but it was such a pleasure to see that up close. And when Jesse started on the piano, I'm Not Lisa. It just brought tears.
Oh,
to my
that's a
eyes,
great
man.
song.
It was just
Great song.
It was killer. This is A.P. Carter's birthplace cabin, and it used to be across the hill here in a little valley over there that his parents owned. And once the Carter fold got going well and everything, and they wanted to bring A.P.'s birthplace cabin over on this property where people could visit and see it.
Because he owned the property because of the store.
Yes.
He owned all this.
Yes.
When they opened it up, Marty Stewart played here?
When they opened it up, Marty Stewart and his Kenny Vaughn and all of them done an acoustic set right here, and I think Tom T was here at the time, and so it was great.
But it sounded good. This old wood, I bet it sounded great.
Yeah, it was killer. It really was.
Have a lot of folks come to see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
There's a lot of people here.
How neat.
So
How neat.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time today. It's been
Hey,
fascinating and so much fun.
It's great to see you guys.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to seeing you again.
I hope to do it again.
All right, sounds great.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Oscar.
Well, Shane, here we are. We've just passed Roanoke. We've left Bristol, Tennessee this afternoon, and we're now in Roanoke, Virginia, I believe.
Yeah.
And we're on the I-81 or just about to go back onto the I-81 to head up to Martinsburg, West Virginia for the next stage of the journey. So,
yep.
So how do you think it's gone so far then,
I
Shane?
think it's gone great. You've got it my way. Get it. Get it. You got it. You've got it. Or you can wait.
Sorry,
It's okay.
you're driving the wrong side of the road here.
I know we do.
So we just tried to go back onto the I-81.
Yep.
We just filled up with gas. We've had an absolute blast in Bristol. So what were the highlights for you then, Shane?
I loved it all. It was a very enjoyable festival.
Yeah, I thought it was. It's a small festival, but it's
well laid out.
It's well laid out.
Yeah.
What I like about it is there's such a mix of acts. There's all genres of music there. There's something for everyone.
Bluegrass, country. There was some blues, some rock and roll.
Yeah.
Everything. It was really good.
On the road up, we by chance put on a song by my favourite band, the Waterboys, called Nashville, Tennessee. And there's a line in there where Mike Scott mentions about meeting the Stacy Midchamp band who play at Bourbon Street Blues and Boogie Bar.
Which is where I met you.
Where I met you.
So you saw me at Bourbon Street Blues and Boogie Bar.
Yes.
And I know that all the songs that you've talked about really liking have to do with the blues, like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix, Chuck Berry, those kind of players where it's raw. It's So how did you get turned on to that?
Well, it's an interesting one, Shane, because I discovered blues music, I think.
Through Chaz and Dave?
No, not through Chaz and Dave, no. Although they were blues-based originally. And they did, of course, appear on the bill of Led Zeppelin's big concert at Knebworth in the 70s, in the late 70s. But no, I discovered the blues. You know what it's like when, well, we're older than you, but back in the day when you didn't have the internet, you had to really work hard to find out about your music. You had to buy the music papers. You had to, if you had a friend who had a big brother or big sister, then you would swap LPs with them, and LPs as it was back then. But yeah, I discovered the blues as a 15-year-old. I swapped an album I had. I was in my punk phase at the time, being a 15-year-old boy, and I swapped an album by a band called the Boomtown Rats with my friend's big brother, who was going off to university, and he wanted to find out more about punk music, and I hated this album. It was awful, so I swapped it with him for Rory Gallagher's album called Calling Card. And I then discovered the blues because I thought, wow, this is good. And that's how I really got in. And then it developed from there, and you find out more and more. And and it's just been it's a fascination with blues has led on to a fascination with the culture of the American South. And that's why I like coming here.
Yeah, it's funny for me that as a kid, Eric Clapton I got turned on to him very early, and he's still my favorite player. And he was always quick to say, you got to check out B.B. King and Buddy Guy and Robert Johnson. And so here we are again. A Englishman turned me on to American blues. Here we are again. I'm with some Scotsman and an Englishman turning me on to music I grew up with, the Carter family, going back and visiting that. So I guess I have to go to England to find out what I want to hear.
I mean, it's a musical journey for both of us, really, and the guys as well. It's and would you find, do you feel that having visited the Carter family place today, is that kind of starting to reignite the music that you learned as a boy?
Absolutely. Yeah, I got a chill when we went to the graveyard and saw the graves, and when he was playing the auto harp and we're playing the Wildwood Flower, my first song I learned how to play, and it sounded like the Carter family. You know, it just yeah, it was really cool.
And thankfully we didn't knock over any of the Carter family gravestones on the little track that we drove up.
Right. I was worried about you turning the car around and plowing over Sarah.
After a long drive north from Bristol, we arrived at Shane's hometown of Martinsburg, West Virginia, where he had a couple of gigs planned for us with local musicians. We spent some time walking around the town and neighbouring Hedgesville to help Shane reacquaint himself with his roots.
Lead on, Macduff.
Lay on, Macduff.
Lay on, Macduff.
So my uncle lived just up the street here, and he played the banjo.
Yeah, that's an instrument that came up from the South with African Americans, wasn't it?
Came up here, met with the fiddles, and got the bluegrass music going.
Bluegrass music going.
Yeah. So my uncle's name was Hound Dog.
Hound Dog.
Yeah. Warren's his real name, but everybody called him Hound Dog.
Hound Dog. Wow, what a great blues name.
Yeah. So after school, I would walk down from our house down to here, and he'd show me some licks and, and teach me how to follow. You know, play the chords behind the banjo.
So you were still a boy? You were still a teenager?
Now I was probably 8 or 9 years old. Yeah.
And learning all these chords at that young age. Wow.
Trying to, anyway. Yeah. But yeah, he was a great early influence. And I remember I would put the guitar behind my head and play as I was walking down the street.
Just like Jimmy.
Yeah, just like Jimmy.
Just like Jimmy. Do you still do that now? Can you still do the bit like Jimmy?
I can.
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah.
If I have to.
Yeah.
So this is the house that I lived in until I was 9 years old.
Wow.
And then my mom and dad moved out to Hedgesville, where they are.
Okay.
Now.
Yep.
Yeah, but had a Mickey Mouse guitar. I would put on little concerts. I would be on the porch, and we had a swing there. And my dad and I would sit on the swing. And, and he would pick and play. You know.
The area around Martinsburg and Hedgesville in particular featured in the American Civil War years. Shane introduced us to Ronnie Good, the current town's historian, who explained a bit more about the area.
But our little community was really devastated. They really, really were during the Civil War. And we would actually started to boom. The railroad had come through at North Mountain in the 1840s, B&O Railroad. Started coming through down there. A lot of Irish people worked in there. A lot of Irish descendants are around here. And they cut the deep cuts. They did all that. They were very proficient at what they did in Allensville, North Mountain area. So as the railroad was built, wow, here we go. Hedgesville was the center because before the railroad, the only way you could get west is come right through this town right here. And our first incorporation was 1854, prior to the Civil War. And we're really doing it. Our growth is good. We have a lot of businesses here. The railroad at North Mountain would bring people in from the city. And it was great. Our little community was thriving. Then came the automobile. You no longer have to travel by train. You can take a shorter route by car. So it's not any different from any place else in small communities in a mountain ravine. As the transportation changed, so did your context of your business change.
Hey, Shane.
Hello, Ian.
How you doing?
I'm well. How are you this morning?
Oh, great night last night, sir.
Oh, we had a ball, didn't we?
Absolutely.
Welcome to my mom and dad's house.
Yeah, thanks very much. Great to see you again.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
He started playing when he was 8. We had bought him a guitar, I think, when he was around 6 or 7, and it sat in a corner for a couple of years, and then one day he said, "Hey, Dad, can you teach me a couple chords?" So he did, and after that, that's all it took. He carried that guitar everywhere with him. We lived in our town of Martinsburg, and my brother lived down the street, and he would come up and play, and then him and Doug and his dad and Shane would play all the time, and then we'd go to parties. Everybody had big parties and played music, and just all the families would get together, and they let him get up and sit in. And then when he got old enough, we would take him out to clubs or carnivals, and he would sit in with the bands. They'd let him get up and play a couple songs on the stages. When he first started out, he kept getting better at playing, so he wanted to do some contests. So we entered him in some contests, and the one we thought sure he had won, but even the MC at the show thought he had won. But when the MC opened up the winning envelope, it said there was the belly dancer had won. And so we remember her name to this day, and we'll never forget her. So when Shane went to middle school, he played in the jazz band, and then he played for the show choir band. And he got drafted to go up to the high school show choir band to play up there, and that's when he met his friend Brian Martin, his lifelong best friend. And they started playing together and played in bands. And then they had a school assembly where a bunch of different people played different instruments or whatever their talent was. And Shane and Brian and another guy was on drums. They decided that they should play the song Cocaine. And they had the whole student body yelling cocaine. Now Brian's mom was a teacher there at the time, and she was just livid. She said, "I was going to kill them." So Shane, he joined a band called Apple City, and they were playing at a place called Rainbow Road, where Patsy Cline had played in her early years of her music career. So he was playing with Apple City, and they opened for Sissy Lynn, who's a relative of Loretta Lynn. And then the guys, thought he was fantastic, and they said, "You need to come to Nashville, and we'll help you get jobs down there." Like I said, I don't know how well that worked out, but he went, and after they said that, there was no stopping that, because we came down to the Rainbow Road that night, and he came to the table and said, "I want to go to Nashville. I'm going. They said I should go." So that's where he went. So he left the day before he turned 18. That was kind of hard. So here, it is 30 years later, and he still plays, as much as he wants to play, and travels, plays downtown Nashville and all the outskirts, and he's happy there. He's got more friends there through the music industry than I think he'd ever had here in West Virginia. Not to say this is a bad place, but, he meets more musicians down there.
Shane, it's lovely to see you again. We had a great gig last night.
Yeah.
It was lovely to see all your musical friends there, and it was a great night of music.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
When we pulled up and the car park was so full, Steve said, "I think we've arrived at Woodstock." So it was so busy, it was packed.
played, there was a wide variety. We were absolutely stunned that it was country and waltzes, then good old rock and roll, bit of blues, and some serious blues as well. But you played one of my favourite tracks, which is it's an old Robert Johnson song, but it's made famous for me by Cream.
Cream, right.
And you played an absolutely blinding Crossroads.
Oh, thank you.
Do you feel you're at a crossroads in your career as the 48-year-old man in Nashville?
I think in this music business, you're always at a crossroads. You're always, what am I going to do next? Yeah. And where's the next gig at? And what's the next song I'm working on? So I feel it's a series of roads you have to cross, and choices you have to make, and gigs you have to navigate through. So I guess in the bigger picture, yeah, like where do I fit into this world at this age, knowing what I know, and balancing family and music. So yeah.
I may be good, but baby not good enough. I may be strong, it takes more than tough. Once I had my chance, but I may have had my last. Can I get one more chance before the dream is over?
When we talked about this coming here to make the movie, we felt we certainly wanted to try and find out more about Appalachian culture, heritage, and in particular the music. You felt that you wanted to revisit, this would give you the opportunity to revisit, some of the wonder you felt as a child, discovering music for the first time. Mm-hmm. So could you just tell us, do you think that this trip has helped you to rediscover this?
Absolutely it has. It's, I really made an effort when we started out to kind of observe you fellas and fans at the Bristol Rhythm and Roots Festival to see how they reacted to music and not be so jaded, because I've been around music all my life and I can just write things off in a minute, go, nah, that's not for me. So I really tried to go, check your negativity and let's try to see it from a different side, So it's been really enjoyable for me to see you guys react to the music and what turns you on about it and what turns you off about it. I mean, you guys don't really have too much negative to say about any of the music that we had seen.
Nashville is clearly a magnet for aspiring musicians from the USA and beyond. One of the main aims of this journey was to help Shane reconnect with his musical roots and assess how his hopes and aspirations as an 18-year-old musician had panned out. For context, I thought it'd be useful to meet up with another musician new to the Nashville scene, just to see if his outlook was similar to Shane's at the beginning. So I met up with singer-songwriter Trevor Toms in Pigeon Forge when back in Tennessee.
I'm Trevor Toms, and I'm a musician based in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. Only the last 2 years since I moved to Nashville, I've been doing it full time, and I finally have made it a career, successful so far. We're paying all the bills. Being a musician in Nashville is it's a bit of a grind. Depends on what you do. Right now, I'm playing all the honky tonks and bars, and what that means is there's 5 blocks of bar after bar after bar. No cover charge, expensive beers, and the musicians generally work on tips. And so I wake up 5 or 6 days a week and play the lunch hour shows, and I play 3 to 4 hours straight of country and rock and roll and pop covers. So in Nashville, there are several circuits. You know, a bar will own 3 or 4 different places or 2 different bars. And so I play at least a dozen places down there. Tootsie's world famous Orchid Lounge. That's the one everybody's heard of. I have played at Roberts. I've played Layla's, Alan Jackson's Good Time Bar, the Distillery. I mean, I played almost all of them. Nashville's, they call it a 10-year town. And I heard that for years before I even moved out here. But it's everybody who shows up has basically 10 years to shoot their shot, to make a career out of it, make a living out of it, to either sell a song as a songwriter to another artist, or to become a performer in their own right, or get a record deal.
Other nights I've been a good truck, had a rough life with hell. I've always got her hammered down, boy. Said I'll pay you, lay on my head, I'll drive through the night and sleep when I can. Truck's going away, but that don't ever slow me down. Yes, it's a rough old life on this here highway. I'm trying to make a living, trying to go my way. Living with a lot of lane, that's nowhere bound.
Going and doing something different, like we all took a chance and just did, makes you feel alive. It's exciting. And yes, it takes more effort to go and do that, but damn if it ain't worth it. You know, I mean, you have to take that chance. And I think I had just given up on taking chances. I am where I am, and that's good enough. And I make a living playing music, and it's okay. But man, you take a chance to go do something different, and you realize, you know, Oscar says, hey, I could probably get you on this festival. A door opens up and you go, wow, there's all this I could be. And it blew me away of all the people that were listening to the music. There's a whole group of people that love music, not just people I play for locally. There's a whole world of people that might enjoy hearing what I can do. And so that encourages me to go, well, let's do it. Let's try it and take it out there and see what happens, you know? Because it is a risk, but the reward would be great. It would just be so much fun, I think.
Now you talk about paying your dues. I gotta know if you're running a tab. Tell me how much I owe. I can't afford to give you. Ain't gonna pay the fool. I can play the blues. I keep on putting this guitar, walking the slab for a $40 gig and a $50 tab.
Some people say Nashville is a 10-year town. I've never thought of it that way. I mean, I moved here to play music. That's all I wanted to do with my life, is play music. I never thought of having a deadline or a timeline. And being at the Bristol Music Festival, Delma Curry's 83 years old. Junior Brown, 68, I think. Ray Benson, Asleep at the Wheel, 73. They're still doing it. And that gave me hope. Like, you don't have to be the new guy on the block anymore, you know? If you have good music, it doesn't matter about your age. I think it doesn't matter as much now as it once did. And that is encouraging for somebody my age that wants to make music for the rest of his life. You know? So I'm here to stay.
So the Margaritaville tour to Florida is not on just yet?
Not just yet.
Gonna be wiping your weeping.
Nashville still is and still could happen for you?
I think so. Yeah. I think so. I think I
so
probably...
the dream's still alive, basically. That's what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, I don't think that dream ever dies, you know. I mean, I had a friend move away recently, and he said, you know, Nashville doesn't love him anymore, you know. And yeah. I don't know that that's true. Maybe you give up on it, you know. And so I think as long as you have hope and as long as you go through, that's why I think maybe giving it another year or two of really trying to expose myself, well, not expose myself, get some more exposure in Nashville, in better rooms, and better, you know, in front of crowds that want to hear you play. You know, I think, you know, this trip's made me realize that I should go give that a shot again. Maybe give it a few more, you know, tries. Something about a road trip. Maybe it's the in-between, the space between the life you know and the way you want your life to be. It's the escape from reality that makes all things seem possible. On every trip I've ever taken, I've made plans to change my life for the better, only to see those plans disintegrate under the weight of reality. Despite our best efforts, life can detour you around the things that you really want. Will this time be any different? Well, it certainly feels that it is different this time. I've had an awakening of my imagination, a rebirth of passion for life and all it has to offer. New eyes seeing brand new things, and knowing that as long as I'm alive, I've got a chance to be and do whatever I desire. Serendipity, an aptitude for making desirable discoveries by accident. Good fortune, good luck. This trip has been serendipitous. Wonderful things have happened at every turn. Out of the blue, good things just appeared. I believe they happened because we had the openness to let them find us. As this trip comes to an end, I hope to take some of that openness back to my normal life and see what could happen. Perhaps if I'm as optimistic about everyday life as I was about this trip, maybe my whole world would change. My new lifelong friends that I never knew I had have made me realize that if we want to, we can do anything. And for that I say, thank you, Ian, Steve, and George. I love you guys. I believe the top on the wings of a dream. I can do anything. I can do anything. I believe in me. I'll reach the top on the wings of a dream. I can do anything. I can do anything. I can do anything. One. Time to rise and shine and get up out of bed. No, you ain't dead, so be glad you woke up again. The rhythm of life is such a beautiful ballet, and every is a good day for a great day. But we all gotta die. Nobody gets out alive. Time flies by like an ambulance cry. We all gotta go, but when nobody knows, it's irreversible. So I'm gonna keep on
makeup and eyes. Perfectly perfect life goodbye. We all got down.